artificial intelligence. There's a lot of mind, a place where you can tune into the bhakti frequency, the frequency of the heart. So today, I wanted to discuss from the Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita, a very foundational book by Srila Rupa Goswami, one of our main teachers. He is also the author of the Nectar Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the comprehensive study guide on the science of Bhakti Yoga. So he has written these very succinct, concise instructions on the science of Bhakti. And as in any science, when you learn any type of activity, you first of all want to know what are the do's and don'ts. What are the things that are actually favorable, that help, and what are the things that are unfavorable, that are detrimental. You ever heard about the do's and don'ts? You get into any type of activity, that's usually what you're trying to look for. So he has provided us with some very pertinent instructions, and we're going to start with number 3. And you can give us the Sanskrit. Utsaha nishayadharya tattat karma pravartanat sangotyagat sato vrite sadbir bhakti prasidati. Synonyms. Utsahat, by enthusiasm. Nischayat, by confidence. Dharyat, by patience. Tatat karma, various activities favorable for devotional service. Pravartanat, by performing. Sangatyagat, by giving up the association of non-devotees. Sataho, of the great previous acharyas. Vrite, by following in the footsteps. Sadbhi, by these 6. Bhakti, devotional service. Prasidati, advances or becomes successful. Translation. There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. Number 1, being enthusiastic. Number 2, endeavoring with confidence. Number 3, being patient. Number 4, acting according to regulative principles, such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. Number 5, abandoning the association of non-devotees. And number 6, following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. Before I get into the purport, I will just going to highlight a few passages of the purport. I'd like to offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and to all of you who are here today, and those who are watching us online. Om Agyanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim Yat kripadam aham vande Sri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Enthusiasm. You just have to watch the children and you will get the idea of what it means to be enthusiastic. They're very enthusiastic about whatever it is that they're doing because they have not yet given up on life. They have not yet resigned to... You guys going to do Kirtan?
No, we're just going to... We have a Mohan Mohan.
Okay. Great. Go for it.
Yeah, we'll just practice.
All right. Have fun, guys. So, we should be like children, always enthusiastic. Huh? When you get a little older, you think like, nah, I'm not feeling it. Where's my chair? Huh? You realize you're getting older when you look into a room and you want to see, where can I sit down here, right? That means you passed that line. So children, for them, enthusiasm is something very natural. It's something that's just part of their nature. But as we move on in life, sometimes it's possible to become a little bit compromised by your external situation. And you start to think, oh, that's just not me. I don't need to do this. I don't need to really perform on that level because it's good. I'm fine. I don't need to go there. One of the famous comedians, Charlie Chaplin, he was once asked, what is the secret of your success? I mean, you're older. You all know Charlie Chaplin, right? Kids, do you know Charlie Chaplin?
I've heard of him.
Okay, never watched anything. Okay, you see, that's kids. That's kids. They'll know other stuff, but so he was one of the most famous comedians of his time. He was asked, what is the secret of success, of your success? And he said, 50% of your success is just showing up at the right place at the right time. So if you want to succeed in whatever you do, just show up. That's already half the rent. Just be there. And if you can't be on time, at least be early. That's another good one. Now, of course, if you're Indian, then that means like about an hour late because that will just do fine. That will just be okay, right? You're still plenty of time because you're eternal. So there's nothing to stress about because, it's an ongoing practice. It's not just now. It's forever, right? So just come when you come. And the other 50% he mentioned was enthusiasm, to be enthusiastic. Now in Latin, entheos means to be divinely inspired or empowered or even possessed by God, by divinity. So that's what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to become touched by God's grace. And that happens when we associate with God and we associate with God's devotees, with His teachings, and with the process of devotional service. Srila Prabhupada in the purport, if you scroll down to the paragraph where Prabhupada gives the definition further down of enthusiasm, it starts off with about halfway through. Go ahead. Go ahead. Further down. No, it's in the beginning of a paragraph. It starts out with the definition of enthusiasm. Go ahead. Good old-fashioned books. They always win. Okay, who sees it first? Further down, the definition of enthusiasm. Further. Nope. Huh? Yeah, leave it with that. Go back. Exactly. I like that one a lot. Let's see if you like it too. Endeavor executed with intelligence in Krishna consciousness is called utsaha or enthusiasm. Do you like that? Endeavor executed with intelligence in Krishna consciousness is called utsaha or enthusiasm. Sometimes we may think enthusiasm just means there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of action. We're just crazy about something, right? We're very enthusiastic. But you can be crazy about many things. People are crazy about all sorts of things. They get crazy about cars, or get crazy about shopping, or get crazy about something random. But here, Prabhupada explains that it is actually when you endeavor, but with intelligence. You use your intelligence. You're not just wildly active. You're not just frantically busy for anything, but you actually use your intelligence in Krishna consciousness. So the goal, the purpose is to achieve Krishna. That is the goal. That is called utsaha or enthusiasm. Otherwise, it's not divinely inspired, but it can be demoniacally inspired. It can be some other type of tendency. And we're going to touch on the second verse a little later, where the don'ts are explained. They're given before, but I'd like to start off with the positive. One time in Mayapur, before my spiritual master left Mayapur, I went into his room to get his bags, and I asked him for some personal instruction. We always try to extract some quality time with our teachers and to get some instructions, some pointers for our lives. So I asked him how I could be of better service. And he mentioned 3 things. He said, would you like to know? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. Okay, thank you. Number 1, enthusiasm. Always be enthusiastic. Number 2, you got to be patient. And number 3, always strive for unity. Now, I found that was very remarkable, and it reminded me of this 3rd verse from the Upadeshamrita, and that's why I chose today to speak about this topic. Because enthusiasm without patience is really not that sustainable. If you're enthusiastic even about the right thing, but your expectation, your timeline is, I want it all and I want it now, and then things don't come in the way you expect them to come, it's very easy to get frustrated. It's very easy to get disappointed. Has this ever happened to you? Or is it just me? That you realize that my timeline and Krishna's timeline may be slightly different. I might be off by like a few kalpas, a few decades, or a few years. I might think I'm there, but I'm not really there yet. And Krishna is making me painfully aware of my shortcomings, and especially of my lack of patience. Srila Prabhupada writes here in the purport, in regards to patience, can you go to patience? Yes. These activities must be executed with patience. One should not be impatient in Krishna consciousness. Indeed, this Krishna consciousness movement was started single-handedly. And in the beginning, there was no response. Srila Prabhupada, when he started in India, there was very little response. He worked very hard, diligently. He created a society. He got a place. He even initiated one disciple. And he networked, and he put a lot of effort. And then everything was taken away from him. And he realized that the place was not suitable, the time was not suitable, and he had to go somewhere else. So he made endeavors to go to America. It took him quite a while to get all the necessary documents and all the necessary arrangements to do that journey. And when he arrived, he spent a few months in Butler, Pennsylvania, at his host family, and afterwards he started out in New York City. And it took over a year till actually people started showing up and paying attention. Over a year. Can you imagine? Have you ever tried something for a few years and you just fail? Huh? You're like, I tried this 2-3 times, it's no good, right? No good. I'm going to go do something else. If I can't succeed, if I can't be the best, I won't play. Have you ever heard that? Have you ever said that? Yeah, certainly. But Prabhupada was so patient. Why? Because he had confidence. He was convinced that the process works. There's nothing wrong with the process. He was confident. Which is the second part, nischayat. to have that confidence, that full faith. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kohe Sudrida Nischoy Sarva Karma Kaila Karma Krita Hoy, that, or something like that, almost like that. That the firm conviction that Krishna's mercy, Krishna's grace, God's grace is available. And I can get it if I endeavor with honest means, with sincerity, and I put myself out there. I say, Krishna, it's your call. I'm trying to do what I can. You make the magic happen. I can't force the issue. In the beginning, there was no response, but because we continued to execute our devotional activities with patience, people gradually began to understand the importance of this movement. And now they're eagerly participating. One should not be impatient. We've got some special effects. One should not be impatient in discharging devotional service, but should take instructions from the spiritual master and execute them with patience, depending on the mercy of Guru and Krishna. My spiritual master asked me to go to San Francisco to open a center, and I asked him why, and he said, you will learn patience. And I said, patience? What are you talking about? You know. And now, after 5 years, I get an idea. I get an idea of what it means to be patient. I'm not saying I've realized it. I'm not saying I'm there yet, but I get an idea of what he was talking about. So that is the blessing when we are in the association of advanced Vaishnavas, when we are in the association of pure devotees who are in touch with the internal potency of the Lord and who know what is Krishna's desire, and also they can see what is this person's room for improvement, what is the deficiency, and where the correction has to be applied. Prabhupada gives the example here of a newly married girl naturally expects offspring from her husband, but she cannot expect to have them immediately after marriage. Of course, as soon as she's married, she can attempt to get a child, but she must surrender to her husband, confident that her child will develop and be born in due time. Similarly, in devotional service, surrender means that one has to become confident. We go line by line today. It's a new strategy. The devotee thinks, Avashya Rakshibe Krishna. Krishna will surely protect me and give me help for the successful execution of devotional service. This is called confidence. You ever read this concept of self-confidence? All these self-help books, you know? You got to be confident. You got to believe in yourself, right? You can do it. All that. So here, it is explained that confidence really comes from knowing that Krishna is in control and Krishna's desire will prevail. And that means in good times and in bad times. It's not that only the good things that happen are under Krishna's control and the bad things, they're out of control. They're random, they're just system errors, you know. Have you ever dealt with errors in code or system errors? I mean, like, good percentage of our people here are trying to fight those errors and those glitches. No, everything is under Krishna's control. Even the things that are seemingly out of control are under Krishna's control. But they're there under the reign, under the realm of the external energy, teaching us that we're not in control, that it's not going according to our plan, but that we should cooperate with the Lord's plan, and in this way understand what is the scheme, the bigger scheme of things. So, when you hear the one, Sangotyaga Satovrite, that we should give up the association of non-devotees, you may think, well, what's my scope of doing that? I'm living here in this world of names. I got a job. I got relatives, I got neighbors, I got people that I meet every day. And how can I can't escape that. It's just part of where I am and who I am and what I have to do. Do you ever get discouraged when you hear that? You have to give up the association of non-devotees? right? And your mind tells you impossible, right? It's just not, you can't do that. So, our acharyas, our teachers, tell us that association actually only happens when you do 6 things. That is, Tadati pratigrinati guyamakyati prichati bhunkte bhujayate chaiva sadvidim pritilakshanam. If you share food and accept food, if you share your mind or you give confidential counsel to someone, or you give gifts and you receive gifts, that's when association happens. Otherwise, it's just superficial and circumstantial. So if you're in the marketplace and you're buying a commodity, you can't call this association. It's just circumstantial. You're with somebody on the bus. Now, have you ever traveled on a bus or on a train in India? It's kind of a rhetorical question, huh? And you get physically close to a lot of people, even a little closer than you ordinarily would like to be. Huh? But actually, it's not association. It's just circumstantial. You're just there in a physical proximity. Huh? Just like sometimes there is this idea that I would like to be close to my spiritual master. Have you ever had that desire? Have you ever had that idea? I want to be close to my spiritual master. Now, that may pose a problem. Like if the spiritual master has got, let's say, 100 students, and they all want to be close to him, it can become a little difficult. Now, if you have 1,000 students, it can become dangerous. If you got 10,000, it becomes life-threatening if they all want to be in close proximity with their teacher. So, Srila Prabhupada once said that the mosquito or the fly are very close to me, but they're disturbing. So closeness is not a matter of geographical location, but bhakti is the most congenial form of intimacy. So if you want to be close with your teacher, or you want to be close with Krishna, then by engaging in devotional service, there is a unity in purpose. There is a oneness in desire. And that is the closest position that we can actually achieve. And that brings us to the third point that my spiritual master was stressing, that always strive for unity. It's very easy to argue and to be divided because of differences of opinions. Have you ever argued with people? Have you ever argued with friends? Have you ever argued with colleagues? Have you ever argued with people in your own organization or religion? Has it ever happened to you? Huh? It's an almost daily thing, right? And as we heard from His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu last Sunday, that usually neophytes or newcomers, beginners, they like to argue a lot. They want to see who is right and who is wrong and who's got the better argument and who can position themselves and who can convince the other party of their idea, their ideology. Huh? So there is a million things that one can disagree upon. Yet persons who try to see the solution rather than the problems, they're looking for what is our unifying purpose? What is it that we can agree upon? What is it that we are actually convinced about? And once we build on that premise, once you have unity, then the diversity is actually not threatening. It's not anymore a challenge. It actually becomes beautiful. It actually becomes enhancing. It actually becomes an asset. But if you don't have a concept or a clear idea about unity of purpose, then the diversity can become a threat, or it can be seen as something very obstructive or dangerous. Just like when you look at Radha Madan Mohan, they're dressed in exquisite, superbly attractive clothing with the most pristine garlands and jewelry. And that is being changed every day. It's not the same. It's always changing because Krishna loves variety. And he has different types of flutes. He has different types of ornaments and jewelry, and he wears them according to his own desires and tastes. Now there is one theme, and one underlying theme, and that is, it is to enhance Krishna's beauty. It is to facilitate his loving pastimes with his devotees. It is to give darshan, or to give audience to everybody. That is the underlying theme. Now, once you agree on that underlying theme, on that baseline, that unity of purpose, then the diversity is not threatening, but it's actually enhancing. It's actually inspiring. But if you were thinking that, just like if you would ask a 7-year-old girl, what's your favorite color? What would she say? Work with me, people. Pink, thank you. Thank you for your honesty, right? Because there's only one color, and that's pink, right? It's got to be pink, huh? And so for her, that's clear. It's got to be pink. Which dress do you want? What doll do you want? It's got to be pink. Huh? Now, if you ask a middle-aged engineer who works in tech, what's your favorite color? That would be? He would say, I don't know, because it doesn't matter, right? Do you ever saw the uniform Steve Jobs was wearing? You remember that? Black t-shirt, blue jeans. Never changed, right? Always the same. Why? Because it's just not something that's important. It's just not something you need to think about and waste time or effort or energy. So you just buy 10 of each, and then you're done for the year. And when you run out, you get more of the same. So, you get the idea? So it's important that we understand what's the common theme. Then our differences won't be threatening, but they will actually be an enhancement. They will actually be an asset to the process of bhakti. Because bhakti is about pleasing Krishna. And pleasure or enjoyment, rasa, taste, is created through variety. Because variety is the mother of enjoyment. If you just have one color, how much enjoyment is there in that one color? It's kind of limited. You want to have it in different shades, in different shapes, in different colors, in different arrangements, because that will enhance the enjoyment. So, in the field of bhakti, all these different varieties are there, but they're synchronized, they're harmonized in the unified purpose of pleasing Krishna. And once Krishna is pleased, all living entities will become pleased. Just like if you water the root of the tree, the whole tree becomes pleased. If you give food to the stomach, all parts of the body become nourished and sustained. So in a similar way, if we please Krishna, all of Krishna's parts and parcels will become pleased. So that is a very important, open secret in Krishna consciousness. Because sometimes we may feel a little forlorn or a little heavy at heart that we're trying to please people. I can say for myself, I'm failing every day. Have you ever had that feeling, that experience? That you try to please the people, but the people are not that easy to be pleased? Even though you may try your level best? There's always something wrong, and there's always someone who will very much object and not like even your best effort at trying to please them. So, therefore, persons who want to advance in their spiritual life, they focus on the basics, on the essentials. And what is that? How can I please Krishna? How can I please the Supreme Lord? Well, because when Krishna is pleased, there is a very good chance that all his parts and parcels will also be pleased. Just like when you get a test exam, you can either get sidetracked by all the little things, or you can just address the main core issues and solve those problems, which will actually get you a passing mark, which is what we should be doing. So what is the actual objective of our existence? That is to realize our own true nature and to act according to our own true nature in relationship with God, with our Creator. And that is the process of Krishna consciousness. So for that reason, we have these wonderful instructions of Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Instruction. It's a very nifty book that is giving us very valuable pointers on how to improve our practice of bhakti. So, any questions or reflections or comments on what we discussed before we get into the second verse? Yes, Prabhu. We need some microphones.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the wonderful class with so many points. So one thing I was wondering, like here you mentioned in this verse, Utsahat Nischayat Dharyat Tattat Karma Pravartanat. That Utsahat and Dharyat, it's a very difficult combination. As we are also explaining that your spiritual master told the 3 points, and out of that one was patience. So I find it very difficult because it's easy to externally change things, but internally, that's why Rupa Goswami is talking about the internal things. It looks to me like a dog's tail, that doesn't get straight.
What seems to be the difficulty?
So how to be patient, because in software industry we have a term called stress test. So when normal situation, it's fine. To be little patient is fine. But when stress comes, stress test, then I fail. So how to increase that patience? What would be your suggestion to increase that patience?
Any suggestions from our testers and from our engineers who are doing these stress tests? Any suggestions? Work with me, people. It's your job. You're doing this every day of the week. How are you improving? How you can keep on going, doing the same thing, and it fails and it fails and it fails. What makes you go on? There's a mic here.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. So for software industry also we use the same example as it is given here. As Prabhupada says, the example of a baby. It takes 9 months for the baby to conceive. So even if you put 9 engineers together, it won't take 1 month for the product to come out. It will still take 9 months. So there are few things we cannot. It's not about time. It's not about people who are working on it. It takes patience, and you have to fail and improvise. So
you said you have to fail.
You have to fail and improve.
You have to fail. That's just part of the process.
Yeah.
So you write that down. I have to fail. Okay?
Yeah.
Once you know that, then you're cool with it, Otherwise you think like, I failed, that's it, I'm done. No. And it's part of the process.
Yes. And
you're supposed to fail.
Exactly.
If it works on the first go, something is wrong, right? You didn't do something right. Because it's too easy. You heard the other point he was making? Just because you put 9 people doesn't mean you manage to do it in 1 month. It'll still take 9 months. Right now, my friends here are working on releases and on hard and software that's going to come out in a year or in 2 years from now. It's just known. It's just standard. Then a person of the street may say, well, why don't you release it now? It's because you can't. because it's still conceptual. It's still not baked. It's still not fully developed. So in a similar way, give yourself the time. Don't try to be great. Just be good. Just work diligently according to your capacity and keep on doing. As Vaisheshika Prabhu often says, a big shot is a little shot that keeps on shooting. So just keep on chucking away. And by compound interest, you will achieve your desired objective. Patience is very hard. I ask students on college campuses every day of the week, what are your 3 greatest challenges? And sometimes they're a little puzzled because their mind is somewhere else. So I give them some suggestions. I say, expectations, patience, anxiety. These are all big ones. For those who can't relate to that, I have to get a little more graphic and get into everyday life challenges that they may be facing. So that is natural. We're all facing our own mortality. We're all facing the idea that I may not be in this body forever, and therefore it may be helpful for me to bend my mind around the idea that there's a certain shelf life to everything. Have you noticed? There's a certain shelf life to everything. Like certain things that were very enjoyable and dear to us some time ago, now you look at it and you go like, what? What's that? You know, me? No way. Or you forgot something in the fridge and you look at it a few months later and it doesn't look too great. And you think like, what happened? You know, what happened here? Time is what happened. Sometimes we look in the mirror and we think, what happened? Time. Time. Krishna is the time factor and is moving everybody along the trail. Everybody. Imperceptible time. You can't even see it. So once we understand that, and we not only accept that, but we welcome that, we appreciate that, then you won't be feeling that you're between the hammer and the hard plate. You don't feel that you're being ground up and chewed up and spat out. But you will feel that actually, I'm going with the current. I'm going with the flow. Just like the small fish that has taken shelter of the water, it can swim against the current. It can even swim up a waterfall. Have you ever seen? Fish can actually jump up waterfalls. It's pretty amazing. Imagine how fast water comes down, but fish can jump up waterfalls. Why? Because they've taken shelter of the water. But the elephant, who is very strong, very powerful animal, he gets washed away by the current because he wants to fight the water, and there's too much resistance, so he gets moved away. So expect to fail, but keep failing and fail forward. Srila Prabhupada was not afraid to fail. He tried many things, and many things did not work. Do you notice when you read Lilamrita how many things Prabhupada tried and how many things failed? But he never lost hope. He never gave up his patience, his enthusiasm. What to speak of his conviction that he would be ultimately successful? Because he had a vision. He knew that there will be temples, there will be devotees, there will be books. And he talked about that vision, even though there was nothing there. There was nothing manifested. It was just one elderly gentleman. But because he had firm conviction and faith in the instructions of his spiritual master, he continued and endeavored with honorable means, and ultimately Krishna manifested everything in due course of time. When did he manifest it? Around 73 to 75. For the last 4 or 5 years of Prabhupada's life, he actually saw the full-blown success of the movement. Before that, it was very, very sketchy. It was very random. Now, when we look at things and we see the movies and we hear the memories, we think like, wow, good old times. Well, if you'd been there in the good old times, you realize they weren't so great. They were pretty rough. We think we got it rough now, right? Do you ever think you got it rough? Do you ever think like that? Or is it just me? Why is Krishna doing this to me? Why is there so many obstacles? Why is it so difficult? Huh? But then you realize that's the way of the world. That's the way how it's supposed to be. Krishna is making us understand that I am not in control. So keep on, keeping on, and leave it up to Krishna. Also, what is success? Sometimes we define success, we want to have it quantifiable, right? We want to get our numbers down. We want to do, 4 of this and 16 of that and 50 of that and a few hundred of that, and then I'm a success, right? But what does that mean to Krishna? Krishna wants to see whether we're actually coming closer to Him. Are we actually offering Him our heart, our devotion, or are we just going through the motion? We want devotion, not just motion. It's not just about an external show. It's really about our dedication and our sincerity. And that can manifest in many different ways. That can manifest in many different ways. It's not stereotype. Especially here in this great country where everything is built on the capitalistic principle of whoever gets the bigger number has won the game. But then if you study history, it's not always the case. It's not always the case. Other questions or reflections on this topic? Or on any of the things that we discussed? Anything so far from our friends online? Sure.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. One thing I noticed from reading Lilamrita and those specific sections is Prabhupada just seems to keep striving for the process. It's not even necessarily that, at least this is how I perceived it, that he's striving to achieve the society in the books and the devotees, but he even seems just to be striving as a service. Do we need to reorient our goals to be the process rather than the result? I'm just a little confused about it, I'm wondering.
Yeah, I like that because sometimes we get caught up in the externals and we think like, let's get a lot of big buildings. But big buildings doesn't necessarily mean you have a lot going on. Just like right now, very few of you are going to the office. There's a lot of big buildings that are standing empty already since months and months and months, but the work is still going on. So you realize that the building itself doesn't do the job. It's the people who actually do the job. So this whole idea of we need a lot of big buildings is wrong. Even the idea of we need a lot of people or we need a lot of money is wrong. Because there's plenty of organizations who have a lot of people or a lot of money or both, and not that much is going on. So, as you correctly remarked, Srila Prabhupada, throughout the Lilamrita, you can see that he was really stressing the point of establishing the process of Krishna consciousness, and he wanted to get people acquainted with the process. He wanted to get people involved in the process and to get a taste for the process of bhakti. And he was not overly concerned in building structure, because he learned that from his predecessors. The Goswamis even though they were very capable people, Rupa Goswami, his brother Sanatana Goswami, they were ministers. They were very capable in administration. But when they gave up their posts and went to Vrindavan, they just engaged in their study, in their bhajan, in their service, and in writing books. And then Krishna reciprocated and sent them men and money and sent them temples, but they themselves did not make that their prime objective. There's nothing wrong with temples and resources if you have a clear idea of what you're going to do with them and you don't put projects over people. Otherwise, you may lose your people and you're left with buildings that you can't maintain, which has happened to many organizations. So that's an important point to note. Thank you for that. So we should also take note of that, because sometimes we want to get the form right. We want to focus on functionality. It has to be efficient. But while trying to do that, we sometimes lose track of the substance. We sometimes lose track of what is the actual meaning, what is the content of my activity. And we get too caught up in the rituals. It becomes a little mechanical. We just go through things mechanically. Has this ever happened to you? You read something, and then afterwards you ask yourself, what did I just read? What was that? Was I just turning pages, or did I actually connect with that message? And what does it mean for me? What am I taking away? Tell me, what did you take away so far from our talk here? Something that stuck with you, that you want to take away and work on. Anything?
I like the point that association doesn't mean proximity or physical proximity. It means that, as you said, we exchange gifts, we exchange prasadam, we exchange our heart. That is real association. So that is why the process of bhakti, when we want to get closer with Guru or Krishna, it's not that only few people can approach Guru or Krishna. Everybody can approach through this process of devotion and service to Krishna. So I like that in material world, only one person can be the first. There can be only one person who is on the top. But in spiritual world, everybody can have their individual connection with Krishna.
Thank you. Otherwise, we got a problem. We think like, I want to be with Krishna, but somebody's already standing right next to Krishna. So position is already taken, right? So now what's your options? Either go find yourself another game, because this one doesn't work for me, or try to get rid of the girl who is next to Krishna. Good luck with that one. Some people tried, didn't work so great, right? But you run into these, or you think, oh, there's already so many disciples around my spiritual master, so he won't even notice me, won't even be able to interact with me, because he's just another person. And a person means limited, right? But if we connect through the process, and we're not in a personality cult where we just try to be very close to somebody, because that will mean that we're intimate and we're part of the inner circle and of the in-gang, but that we actually connect with the heart, with the mood and mission, with the teachings. You can be on the other side of the world. You can be in a different galaxy, but you're fully connected. Like Prabhupada often said, I'm chanting Hare Krishna, you're chanting Hare Krishna, we're connected through the transcendental sound vibration. And the geographical location is irrelevant. That's not the point. Srila Prabhupada said, my Gurudev left this world many decades ago, but there's not a moment where I don't feel him standing right next to me, looking over my shoulder, guiding me, giving me good instructions. He's got my back. He was confident of that. And that's why he was capable of doing what he did. Because he never thought, I'm acting on my own. Now, Prabhupada was not a major player in the institution of his spiritual master. He never lived in a temple. He never was one of the administrators or organizers or designated heads of the institution. He was considered a congregational member, somebody who shows up for festivals and helps and, supportive, but not major player. But because devotees were recognizing his great sincerity and enthusiasm, they said, why can't he be the president? Why can't he come and manage the institution? And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, no, for now, leave him be as he is. In due course of time, he will do whatever is necessary. Because he could see. So, it's very important to reflect on these points, because otherwise we can get a little caught up in this scenario, in this dilemma. So everybody can be fully connected to Guru and Krishna. There's no deficiency. There is no, there's this quota, either by time or by numbers. Like in one religion, they have this thing that it's like, I don't know how many thousand or 100,000 people can go to heaven, and then the house is full, right? You ever heard of that? We're not going to mention names, but it's pretty frustrating because their own group is already in the millions. So that means either some of those are fake or some of those are not going to make it, or, and then why'd you go out and proselytize and try to share the message if you yourself already exceed the number of spots that are to be taken? But Krishna can interact simultaneously with each and every living entity, not just adequately, but perfectly, according to their desire, to their mood and inclination and taste. That is Krishna. Only Krishna can do that. What else are you going to take away from this class? I'm going to take away that kids are very enthusiastic. Today they're all over the place, and there's a lot going on here. Yes, Vangshi Mohan, and then in the front.
Expect failure, but fail forward.
Thank you. Okay, we need a microphone here.
I thought that it's so important to know the definition, the proper definition. You were saying association. And we can have these very surface or lightweight definitions of things. And if you don't really know the definition of association, like you say, oh, I'm not next to this person. So therefore I need to be next. I teach children, and they teach dance to children. And when I'd come into the room, because they want all me to notice them, they all have to be next to me at the same time, which causes me to run away from them. I run around the room sometimes because in their minds, I have to be right next to her to be associated with her, which is not true, because we can be in touch with each other. You're way over there. And so it is very important, because this is where envy comes in. Because a child will sock another child almost to death if they think that the teacher likes him more than he likes me. But in point of fact, the teacher is involved with all of them, and if they don't understand that you can be tied to somebody without being next to them or always occupying this position, this next door position with them, we can all be tied to Krishna. And so we're not alone. We don't have to envy all these other people. And that's so much of a bad source on this planet, that we're so envious. The reason why people want to be first is because they want to be in association with, and we can always, all of us can be in association with Krishna. We don't have to be envious of other people.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And yeah, sometimes you realize that you can be in physical proximity, can be friends, can be family, can be sports, can be company, can be whatever. But then you actually start talking and you realize like, whoa, they're worlds apart. There's totally different trajectories going on. So it's important that we discuss these topics, because otherwise we will, again, the tendency is to focus on form rather than on substance, to go for the externals rather than for the essence. And that can become, as you said correctly, can become counterproductive and even scary. Other reflections? Hey, the gang is back. Do you guys want to do a little kirtan in here? Huh? Okay. All right, there they go. Microphone. No mic, it doesn't count.
Thank you, Prabhu. You said, you mentioned how neophytes like to argue, and that made me think of a previous lecture that I watched you do, where you quoted Prabhupada, who talked about how the logicians and people who get into these arguments are likened to jackals, or could become that in the next life, and how like these like dogs throughout India, wild dogs, just are, or even here, they get into these chains of howling at each other. And you mentioned how they were self-appointed guardians, and that stuck with me when you said how neophytes like to argue. It made me think of the self-appointed guardians, how like they're just, no one's asking them.
Yeah, they're self-appointed.
Right.
And it's kind of ironic, like you can walk past the same garden fence and the same dog will start jumping and running and doing his thing every single time you walk past that. Now they're self-appointed. No one told them this is what you have to do. They just think this is me. This is what I have to do, right? So in a similar way, if we get into argumentative mode, we may bark at so many things. Yet it's not very conducive for bhakti nor for relationships. In fact, quite to the contrary, which brings us to the second verse. Verse number 2. Did anybody have some other reflection they wanted to share before we go to the next verse? Yes.
I liked when you emphasized on the point of we will fail, because oftentimes we do hear this about enthusiasm and patience, but sometimes when we are endeavoring, we get so much caught up in succeeding in it that, we always question, where did I go wrong? Why did I go wrong? And then we start questioning the patience and the enthusiasm part of it, but not realizing that, yes, it is okay to fail.
Thank you. Yeah, Prabhupada is giving the example in the purport about the girl who wants to have a child, and she can in due course of time, but there's a process. Also, for those of you who are parents, once your newborn is there, initially you go there like every other moment, and you're like, is it still breathing? You remember that? You're like, is it still alive? And after a few days, you realize like it's okay, like nature takes care. Don't worry about it, Children grow up, so just do your part. And that requires faith. It requires faith in the process that there is a process and there is a system. There is goodness in the system. And then, will actually appreciate Krishna's plan, even of sometimes making us wait for things. Because if we would get everything right there and then, how much would we actually be able to appreciate them? What question is there of glorious victory if there was no struggle to attain it? Like most of us, it took us a while to get here. And I'm not just talking geographically or economically or legally, but in terms of consciousness. It took us a while to get where we are now. But now we can appreciate the struggle and even the failures and even the setbacks and even the delays that seemed excruciatingly, painfully slow and difficult. Because now we realize that that's what it took for me to actually grow in that way. You know the caterpillar, when it's in a cocoon, if you think, I'm going to help this poor fella, and I'm going to be, a nice guy, and I'm going to cut open that cocoon, because then the butterfly can actually come out, right? Guess what? It won't come out. It will die. Because unless that caterpillar goes through that transformation, through that struggle, through that metamorphosis, and it really struggles and strives and it pushes really hard, it won't be able to push blood into its wings and it won't be able to fly. So anybody who thinks, we can do a quick fix here, we know the shortcut, and we'll just jump ahead of the queue. Did you ever try to do that? Jump ahead of the queue? Does this idea ever come to your mind? Or is it just me? Yeah? One time I was with my spiritual master in Bhuvaneshwar. We just had a beautiful yatra in Puri. And we were swimming in the waves, and we were feasting on Jagannath Prasadam, and we were having dance and satsang and everything great. And then we were in Bhuvaneshwar at the airport, and there was 2 counters. One counter had a sign, Mumbai, and it was a long line of people. And the other counter had nothing. But there was a person there. And me and queues were not friends. So I just walked to the other counter, straight up to the front, and tried to check in there because I was assisting my spiritual master. And I thought, he's got more important things to do than wait in line. But then as I walked towards that counter, just before I started approaching that person, I looked around and I saw my spiritual master was not behind or besides me. He was already at the end of the line. And I realized it's not about being first. It's about doing the right thing. What do you think people will think? There's 2 guys dressed like this who just walk straight past the whole queue, right? And just go and check in. Yeah, I can pull it off. You go there and you sweet talk the girl or the boy or whoever is there, and you get the job done. But what is it to get the job done? Is the job to cut the queue and to get ahead? Or is the job to do the right thing? Now you tell me, what is the job? Oftentimes we think it's just moving faster in the world of names. But actually, no, it's doing the right thing. And that means understanding that there's a timeline for everything. Like there's a timeline for this class. We get another 21 minutes, or 25 to be precise. So there's a timeline. And the more I appreciate Krishna's timeline, the more I can actually become peaceful and confident that everything will work out in due course of time. Thank you. So the second verse, and I wanted to start out with a positive because sometimes if you get into the negative first, it becomes a little heavy. So, Atyahara prayashascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha laulyam cha Shadbir Bhaktir Vinashyati. Translation. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. Number 1, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. Number 2, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. Number 3, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. Number 4, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5, associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada gives a lot of emphasis about simple living and high thinking. And he even speaks about the radical concept of get some land and some cows. And I was thinking, why not put that out here in Silicon Valley? Get some land and some cows, right? And people think like, who is this guy? Get him out of here. Whoever gave him the mic, right? Remember those days when people would live off the land? You don't remember, but you have heard, right, from your grandparents that there were such days when people actually lived off the land and they had animals. And they lived more simple, more wholesome, more sustainable lives. You don't hear from people dying of heart attacks at 41 or, getting cancer early on in the game because there was a different lifestyle. There was just a different atmosphere. People were more in tune with nature and the cycles of nature, and they were happy to go along with the seasons that were there. Now we think it's 365. There is no limit. I can manage the universe on my phone, right? And then you realize that you can't even get your delivery guy to bring you what you ordered. Have you ever noticed that? You think you got all the seemingly unending options of what you want to order, and then you don't get what you want. And even if you do get it, what's the point in it? So, to understand what is truly necessary, what is truly beneficial, and what is artificial, what is external, what is substance, and what is actually unwanted. That is important. Otherwise, we'll make, our judgment will be faulty, and we will go for the wrong thing. So I will let you read this purport. It's a long purport. By yourself, you can study these 2 verses, and it's a very succinct, very precise definition on what are the do's and don'ts in bhakti. That's what I wanted to talk about today. Before I ask for more questions and reflections, I also wanted to show some appreciation for Sura Prabhu, who left this world just a few days ago. He was a direct disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada, and he served Srila Prabhupada for over 50 years in the capacity of distributing his books. He was a temple president in St. Louis. He was working for the BBT for many, many decades in Los Angeles to ensure that his books were printed and available and distributed. He would go to the different, deal with these conventions where booksellers would come, and he was always interested in pushing forward the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was a very unique personality. When I think of being dutiful and being fixed up, I think of Sura, because he would go to the office 7 days a week. Even when he was sick, he had diabetes, had a lot of operation, lost quite many difficulties on a physical level for the last 10 years. But he went to the office every single day. He just never stopped. He just never gave up. Towards the end, he was in and out of the hospital a few times. And one time, somebody asked him, why'd you come back? He said, I came back because I wanted to attend your funeral. That's Sura. He had some sense of humor. Srila Niranjan Swami was sharing that when Sura was a book distributor in St. Louis Airport, Niranjan Swami was also there with his team from Boston, and they were distributing books on the parking lots in St. Louis. And he went to the St. Louis airport to pick up their temple president who came in. So he was dressed in regular clothes, and Sura approached him and wanted to sell a book to him because he didn't know that he was a devotee. So after a while, he realized this person is smiling and this person looks a little different, and then he realized, oh, he's got neck beads on. So he had to out himself. He had to come out and say, okay, I'm a devotee, and I'm just here to pick up my temple president. But Sura was undeterred. He said, oh, okay, so you're the Sankirtan leader, so you have a van. So do you have a full library of Prabhupada's books? And he showed him all the books. And he said, you don't have this, you don't have that one, you don't have that one, you don't have that one, you have to take these books. So he just changed his presentation. And then Niranjan Swami said, no, we got a full set and we're good. So after a while, Sura realized it's not going to work. This guy's not going to take anything. So he just dropped it and he went off to approach other people. But before he walked off to approach other people, he told Niranjan Swami, you're the Sankirtan leader. You're supposed to be out there in the parking lot leading those men. You could have sent anybody to pick up your temple president. Why did you come here to the airport? So that's Sura. That's his style. There's always a little bit of sauce. There's always some chutney in the equation. But Krishna likes that variety. Krishna likes that spice. He has all different types of devotees. That's the beauty of it. That's the harmony. That's the attractiveness. If everyone would be the same, it'd be kind of boring, wouldn't it? Even if everybody would be, we think, oh, if everybody would be like me, there would be no problems, right? No, wrong. Big problem. Big problem. So everything's perfect. The last time we checked, when you go out on a walk, and I hope you do, because there's some beautiful nature wherever you are, just go and walk every day. And appreciate Krishna's nature. And you will see that every leaf is in its right place, every tree is in a proper spot, every bird is doing what it's supposed to be doing. And the only people who are going crazy are the humans who are running around, and they're trying to fix all this. That's not really fixable. So Sura Prabhu, he passed, and it's a great loss, yet we remember him fondly. And we see in his example that somebody who sticks to the process and who is dedicated to the mood and mission of the spiritual master is undeterred by all the external circumstantial difficulties and pushbacks that might occur in health. He struggled a lot on many levels. But because he was firmly fixed in his mission, he never let anything slow him down. He was always steady. And he took Kirtan to many places all around the United States. And he was always very enthusiastic to spread Prabhupada's books and the mission. And I remember him fondly. For me, Sura is LA, is the BBT. Because whenever I went there, he was there. Even if it's dark and the lights are out, he's there. He's doing his thing. So practice is what happens when nobody's watching. It's not just Sunday. It's not just when it's church hours. It's not just when my spiritual master is here. Who shows up when spiritual master is not here? Is spiritual master not here? Is your guru here or not? Whose guru is here? Is your guru here? Are you sure? Whose guru is not here? Whose guru has left? No. If he's really your guru, your spiritual master, then he's here. That's an important point to meditate upon. Otherwise, there was a lot of people who walked out that door in 1977. They thought, that's it, game over, it's done. He's gone. But when you actually understand what spiritual life is, you realize that it's not geographical, it's not circumstantial, it's not a matter of physical proximity. But when you're tight, that is for life, that is for eternity. And to build those relationships means that we daily invest into our bhakti practice, and more we'll be able to appreciate other individuals, other devotees, other living entities on their journey, on their struggle to come closer to Krishna. And we'll collaborate with them, and we'll try to help them, and we'll try to assist them. And we'll realize that by helping and assisting others, that will bring us closer to Guru and Krishna. Because sometimes you may be very close to your spiritual master, but if that mood of serving and assisting and helping others is not there, you might just be missing the point completely. We have time for some more questions or reflections. Yes, Palibardhan, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So I just like to know, give some insight about the Niyama Graha, means what is the kind of a cut-off line, or what exactly this way or that way, means what is under rules and what is over rules? How do somebody first determine that we are, for example, nowadays many things happening around different standards in terms of food, in terms of fasting, in terms of following some festivals. So there are so many varieties of things which comes into picture when you are practicing your devotional service. So how do we determine what exactly Acharya's demand is, how it will be beneficial for your spiritual development? So give some examples and insight.
Thank you. First of all, it's important to understand, why do we have rules? What's the whole point in rules? Is it so you can hang something on the wall because you don't have any artists, so you hang rules on the walls? Or what are they there for? What's the meaning? What's the purpose behind it? All these vidhis, or these injunctions and strictures, are actually there to draw us closer to Krishna, to bring us closer to Krishna. Would you agree that the rules in devotional service are there to bring us closer to Krishna? Okay, so then, given that fact, if by following something it brings me further away from Krishna, then it's actually not beneficial to the actual purpose, right? So, Srila Prabhupada often mentioned that what may be possible in one country or in one situation may not be possible in another country or another situation. Because you just don't have the same ingredients, you just don't have the same facilities to do that. That's why it's important to understand the difference between substance and form. That substance is the essence and form is just a container that always changes. Even in history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism and in the history of the Vedic tradition, many things have changed according to the ages, according to the geographical situation and circumstances. So I would say, to make it short without getting into categories of food, dress, and deity worship, etc., try to understand what is the goal. Because once we know the sadhya, once we know the goal, then the process to achieve it actually becomes quite self-evident. It becomes illuminated by itself. And in Manu Sanghita, which is the law books for mankind, which were written down by Manu, Manu says that I have written these rules for people of my time, and they should be applied for the people of your time when wise persons, Brahmins, educated, visionaries, will get together and apply them in their geographical location. So you need persons who are actually understanding the intention behind the letter of the law. You have to understand the spirit of the law. Otherwise, you'll always do the wrong thing. I don't know if that answers your questions or that satisfies your curiosity, but it's too broad of a topic to get into it. But in the Sanskrit, niyamagraha and niyama-agraha, it can mean either following pedantically, just in order to justify the protocol, or whimsically rejecting and abandoning rules and saying, oh, we don't need this. We're in the West, or we're transcendental, or we're not doing this. Both of them should be given up. So Vaishnava, a devotee, is somebody who tries to understand why is there this rule and what's the actual meaning behind this rule. Just like, for instance, you may say, in order to purify a place, you need Ganges water. Well, I don't have Ganges water. Can I still purify a place? Is it possible to purify a place without Ganges water? Yes, if you understand that the principle is purity, it's cleanliness. The principle is not Ganges water or cow dung or all these other ingredients that you can use. You can also just wipe the place with regular water. You can also chant mantras. So we have to understand what is the principle and what is the detail. If we take details to be principles, then we run into big trouble. And if you take principles to be details, then we also run into big problems. So that takes a little bit of intelligence to understand. Now, Srila Prabhupada, when he started the ISKCON movement, he gave people principles, but he did not emphasize so much details because he saw that his audience was not capable of actually working according to that level of capacity. In fact, he gave the first initiation, and after the initiation, he posted the rules. Because he thought that if I'll tell them before, no one's going to do it. They're just gonna leave. It's just not going to work. One time my spiritual master was sitting down with the leaders in Chaupadi, and they showed him deity pictures of Radha Gopinath. And they asked him about the turbans, how the turbans should be done. And they showed him many, many pictures. And he said, no, 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 no. And then he picked a few out of many, many. And he said, that's proper. And then they said, well, we have been doing it wrong for the last, for the last 8 years. Why didn't you tell us? He said, because you wouldn't be able to handle it. You wouldn't be able to do it. But now that you have come to me and asked me what is the proper standard, it is my duty as your spiritual master to tell you, to instruct you. So the teacher knows the capacity of the student. So you don't give more that will overburden and discourage your pupil. Because the only goal of any of these programs is bringing people closer to Krishna. But if they don't come again because they feel, I can't do this, this is too high, this is too heavy, this is too much, then we have failed. Like in some temples or churches, they chant Sanskrit or Latin or Greek or Aramaic for hours and hours and hours, and for a newcomer, it may be a little frightening. Can you imagine? You're a new person who walks off the street, and you get into a service, and people are just quoting or speaking or singing in foreign languages for hours and hours and hours, and you think like, well, okay, what's next, you know? Like more of the same? What are they saying? What are they talking about? And what's the point behind it? So, we have to know our audience. We have to know who are we talking to. And then depending on the level of that audience, you can either give a little more or a little less. And also it has something to do with having faith in the process that Krishna is in the heart of every living entity, and he's guiding every living entity. Living entities are smart. Like children, they're smart. They're going to figure it out in their own time, in their own way. But if I try to impose or superimpose upon them, oftentimes it will be counterproductive and it will be backfire. I'm going to the universities every day. I meet people who are disenchanted with organized religion, and that's every denomination. Not just Christianity, not just Judaism, also Islam, also Hinduism, everything. Why? Because people have superimposed rules and regulations on them without getting them to understand why this should be good or why this should be done or not done. And thus, people felt discouraged and they dropped the ball. So we ought to ensure that the same thing doesn't happen to us in our attempts to practice bhakti. Because ultimately, like Brahma Vimohana Leela, Brahma comes. You know the story, the pastime. Brahma stole the cows and the boys, and then he got bewildered because they were still there. And then he came back and he realized that this little boy that he thought was just some naughty coward boy was actually God. And Krishna was standing there and he was holding in his left hand yogurt and fruit. It was dripping from his hand. He was eating with his left hand. Now, anybody with a little bit of background will say, left hand, eating? Nah, wrong. Kid, wrong, right? But Krishna is a coward boy. Left hand, right hand, you know. So it just blew Brahma's mind. It just completely blew his mind. And he wanted to explain himself. He wanted to apologize. He offered prayers of glorification. And Krishna just was standing there with the food dripping from his hand and looking at Brahma like, what are you talking about? I'm just looking for my calves and for my friends. And then Brahma realized that there is a higher logic, a higher law than the realm of what is right and what is wrong, and that is pure love. And that is the realm of bhakti. Huh? That doesn't mean that we do away with everything, but we try to understand what is the purpose behind it, and we apply it in a way that is actually doable and practical. And that has to be decided according to time, place, and circumstances. That's as much as I'm willing to go into it. You're welcome.
So one also example which is like Prabhupada, when he was in New York in the earlier days, when he goes for a walk, so even in the winter, then comes back and he goes to the bathroom to wash his feet. So sometimes it is very new to Western devotees, like water means why do we do it, right? Means going for a walk and coming and washing. So Prabhupada said it's generally an Indian custom and culture, and he didn't go deeper into what, but they followed. Sometimes he give quotations from scripture, sometimes give just a common rules, common examples for purity. So thank you for explaining.
There is nothing as uncommon as common sense. What is good here, you go over the river or just a few miles and it is considered bad. And you go a little further and again it changes. So, but again, the principle and the detail. If we look and we understand that, you got a better grip on the situation than just by ritualistic approach. Any other questions or reflections? Something else that you take away from today's talk? We will have Artik in just a minute. and Kirtan, and afterwards prasadam. So be patient. It will happen. Guaranteed. Krishna willing. You never know. Any other points? Pardon me? Nothing from online? Nobody loves us anymore from online? They have given up on us? No, everybody's out distributing books. It's the December marathon, so they're just still out there distributing books. Yes? We need a microphone in the back. You got it.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I liked your point of the variety, and that we should appreciate variety. You were explaining in terms of Krishna's dress. Even we see the garland, so many flowers. So I really like the point, because many a times we think this is the way and everything has to be done in this way, otherwise it's wrong. But appreciating variety, that not everybody will be same, not everything has to be same. There's a beauty in the variety, so thank you for that point.
Thank you. Yes, in a few days we'll have Odan Shasti, so they will offer starch cloth to the deities. Sometimes you go to another temple or to another country or just next door to the church across the street, and you think like, how dare they? How can you do like this? How is it possible? But if we understand why they're doing it, what is their intention, what is their mood, and we see that actually there is devotion. If we just get a slitter, just an inkling, just a little whiff of the fragrance of devotion, we should be able to appreciate it, no matter where it is being found. You understand what I'm trying to get at? Otherwise, you'll end up with a very small group of very narrow-minded people who are very insecure and territorial. But if we can truly appreciate bhakti, devotion, in all its magnificence, in all its magnitude, then we'll be able to appreciate everybody. Because everybody has got that potential. Everyone has got that inherent propensity. The other day I was distributing books at UC Berkeley, and there was one young Muslim student, and he said, I saw you yesterday, I'm seeing you today. You're effulgent. You're glowing. I want what you have. And he took a book. He gave a donation. He knew it was a different religion. He knew it was a different thing. But he saw something that was attractive, that was meaningful to him. And he connected to that. The other day I was at San Jose State, and there was 2 rabbis who came. They set up a booth. They have their big festival right now. And they were very enthusiastic about doing their thing. And I appreciated them. And we connected on that level of devotion and of enthusiasm. Now, someone may say different religion, different God, different ritual, different everything. No, same God, same process, same essence. So if we want to come to a conclusion, we need to strive for that higher level of what is the actual goal. We're here to show our love and gratitude to our spiritual teachers and to glorify the Supreme Lord, Krishna. And anything that gets in the way of that, even in the name of organization, even in the name of rules and regulations, even in the name of doing the good thing, is a bad thing if it obstructs your flow of devotion. It can be supportive, it can be assisting, but if you make it the main thing, it becomes an obstacle, and it should be given up. Now, of course, in the initial stages of our practice, we cannot just say, okay, I'm just going to go freestyle. We have to follow the process and learn how to do things right, but don't let the mechanics make you lose the love of the game. You understand what I'm trying to communicate. Thank you for your kind attention. Next few days, people are going to get into the shopping craze and so many other crazes that are there at the end of the year. We have Gita Jayanti coming up, the day where Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So if you want to give meaningful gifts, get a case of Bhagavad Gitas, give people the message of Krishna, or a case of nectar of instructions, and in this way give them something tangible that they can actually remember that will have impact on their lives. Thank you very much. All goes to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we'll pack up the seats and we'll have an arti ceremony and Kirtan, and then there will be the vegetarian feast. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
His Grace Navina Prabhu Ki. Hare Krishna.
Jai Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Jai Radhe Gorat. Jai Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Radhe Jai Sri Radhe. Hare Krishna. Can you get some mridanga player? Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu. Shiva Jaya, Jaya Gora Chande, Arati Kasobha Jaya. Janhavi tatabane Jagamanalobha Jagajanamana Jagajanamana Gaurangera Aratika Shobha Jagajanamana Lobha Gaurangera Aratika Shobha Jagajanamana Lobha Jagajanamana Lobha
Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Iva Dakshine Nithai Chanda Bame Gadadhara Nikate Advaita Sini Vasa Chhatradhara Jiva Bosi Ache Gora Chanda Ratna Singhasane Arati Kore Adi Devagane Jivanara Hari Adi Kori Samoradhulaya Sanjaya Mukunda Bhasi Goswadigaya Shiva Shankha Baje Ghanta Baje Baje Karatala Madhura Mridanga Baje Paramarasala बाजे घंटा बाजे बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे हे शंख बाजे घंटा बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे हे शंख बाजे घंट बाजे मधुर 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 बाजे गौरांगेर आरतिक शोभा जग जन मन लोभा हे गौरांगेर आरतिक शोभा जग जन मन लोभा हे जग जन मन लोभा हे जग जन मन लोभा निथाई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निथाई गौर हरि बोल निथाई गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निथाई गौर हरि बोल
বহু কোটি চন্দ্রাদিনী বদন উজ্জ্বল দেশে বনমালা করে ঝলমল শিব শিব সুখ নারদ প্রেমে গদ গদ ভকতি বিনোদ দেখে গৌরার সম্পাদ ভকতি বিনোদ দেখে গৌরার সম্পাদ নমো বিষ্ণুপাদায় কৃষ্ণপৃষ্ঠায় ভূতলে শ্রীমতে ভক্তিবেদান্ত স্বামী ইতি নামিনে আপনি রোজন করুন नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशधारिणे नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hey, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hey, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vande Krishna Nanda Kumara, Vande Krishna Nanda Kumara, Nanda Kumara Madana Gopala, Nanda Kumara Madana Gopala, Hey Madana Gopala Mohana Rupa, Hey Madana Gopala Mohana Rupa, Hey Mohana Rupa, Mohana Rupa, Hey Mohana Rupa, Mohana Rupa, Rupa Mohana, Hey Mohana Rupa, Madana Mohana, Madana Mohana, Hey Mohana Rupa, Madana Mohana, Hey Madana Mohana, Madana Mohana, Hey Madana Mohana, Madana Mohana, Madana Mohana, Hey Madana Mohana, Madana Mohana, Hey Madana Mohana, Madana Mohana. Jaya Radha, Madan Mohan Radha, Madan Mohan Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Sri Radhe. Jaya Sri Radhe, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu. Prabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha. And Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. And Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev. जय जय श्री राधा मदन मोहन भगवान की, श्रीमन महाप्रभु की, श्री श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंह देव भगवान की जय। विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत वचनान भक्ति वेदांत समय जगत कृष्ण प्रभुपाद महाराज की जय। नित्य लीला प्रविष्ट अष्टोत्तर शत श्री भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी ठाकुर प्रभुपाद महाराज की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री श्री नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवस्ति गौर भक्तवृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम मथुरा धाम की जय। श्री श्री नवदीप मायापुर धाम की जय। श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय। भक्त देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। ट्रांसडेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की जय। All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari. Please turn on the light, please.
भगवान की प्रहलाद महाराज की निताय गौर प्रेमानंद।
हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. We welcome you all to today's Sunday Feast program here at ISKCON of Silicon Valley, Mountain View. Thank you all who are present here, and also we would like to thank who have joined us online. So please give a big round of applause. Today's Krishna Katha was brought to us by His Grace Navina Nirada Prabhu. So please let's give us a big round of applause. Haribol. And ecstatic Kirtan was led by His Grace Balivardhan Prabhu. And the Narsimha Arti was led by Geeta Priya. Anyone coming here for the first time? Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Here too. Okay, thank you all for coming. We have 3 days a week program here at ISKCON of Silicon Valley. Wednesday evening is the online class, which happens around 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Saturday is from 6:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. and Sunday 3:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. So if you have any questions or could be of any assistance, please reach out to any one of us and we would be happy to assist you in any way we can. So for all the newcomers, let's chant one Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So what's coming up next at ISKCON of Silicon Valley is Friday evening at Palo Alto. There is going to be a Harinam at 6:59 p.m. at the intersection of Emerson and University Avenue. So please do come. This is the last Harinam of the year. It will be a nice festive mood with the lights in the Palo Alto specially done for Harinam. And so please do come with your friends and family. And then there is a Advent of Bhagavad Gita that's happening on December 14th, on the day of Mokshada Ekadashi. This is the day where the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. So we will be reciting the complete Bhagavad Gita here in the temple. The details would be sent out soon. So keep looking at your email. The details will be announced probably next week sometime. And other than that, the devotees are going out every day for the book distribution. This month, the December marathon is going on throughout the world. All the devotees around the world are going out. Practically here, devotees are going out every day. And, if there is no, as Navina Nirada Prabhu was saying today in the class, that if you want to give anything meaningful gift, it is Bhagavad Gita. So if you want to give gift to your friends, family, especially this is a holiday season where we would be giving gifts, accepting gifts. So there is no better way to give gift other than Bhagavad Gita. So if you want to, please reach out to one of us. We would be happy to assist you. Hare Krishna. So today we don't have any sponsorship. If anyone is inspired to sponsor today, so Prabhu is here. Thank you, Prabhu. Is there any occasion you would like to sponsor? Just like that? Okay, that's a good reason to sponsor. So thank you. Venkatesh Prabhu. Yes, Venkatesh Prabhu. Thank you for sponsoring. And we would have, Mangalarti sweets to Prabhu. Yeah, thank you. And Geeta Priya, Anushri, can you please announce the cooks for today? Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Today's cooks were Hari Sankirtan Prabhu, Preeti Mataji, Rasamrita Shesha Prabhu, Dadya Seva Prabhu, Srini Prabhu, Priyanka Mataji, Srinivas Prabhu, Sutra Malik Prabhu, Neelachal Chandra Mataji, Kalyani Mataji, and Sirisha Mataji. Hare Krishna.
And Manjula Kanta Mataji is going to talk about some important announcement.
Hare Krishna. December is the month of giving. As we all know, it's our biggest marathon. And along with our marathon, we also do a smaller little personal marathon of our own at ISV. We run the Gratitude Fair every year in December. This year, the Gratitude Fair is on the 26th, the day after Christmas. And this Gratitude Fair is an opportunity for our Matajis and our children to give back to the temple. This is a season of giving everywhere, and no better place to give than at the feet of Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan. So our children during the fair, they run stalls, they sell stuff that they've made, and this year especially we're doing a little carnival for the kids, which is games and prizes and stuff outside, and we have food, prashadam for sale inside. We're doing it from 1:30 to 5, so it's on the 26th. Please just mark the date, and then every Sunday coming up, the next 2 Sundays coming up, we will keep up things outside for display, letting you know what's coming up in the sale and what's going on. So do stop by at the door as you're walking by and check in. And on the 26th, if you're here, please come and support us, encourage us. Our children are doing this to give. They sponsor the Gaur Purnima dresses for the deities every year. And it's a big budget, but Krishna has been extremely kind. We've always hit the mark. As Maharaj always says, smashed. We always smash our goals. So please come and support us. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so that's it for the announcement. So we will have prasadam prayers now. And after the prasadam prayers, prasadam will be served outside. So thank you. Geeta Priya or Anushri, one of you can please lead the prasadam prayers.
Sharira Vidya Jan Jorindriya Tahika Jive Fele Vishaya Sagore Taimati Jivayati Lobo Mai Sudurmati Samsare Krishna Varodoyaman Gauri Bhare Jiva Jan Swapasadana Dilobhan Sayanamrita Paon Radha Krishna Guna Gao Premera Ko Shri Chaitanya Nitai Premera Ko Shri Chaitanya Nitai Mahapashade Govinde Namo Brahmane Vaishnava Sopa Punyavatam Rajan Vishwasunya Vachayate Prasade Sai Dukanam Anirasya Pachayate Prasana Jita Suyasu Buddhi Paryavatishate Tvayopa Bhukta Shaganda Vasulankara Charchita Vajista Bhojino Dasa Stavamayam Jayamagi Bhagavad Shima Prasad Ki Thy Gaur Premanandi.